Okay, so it's time for us to kind of sit down and actually cover, well, the first ever crossover for the Heroes Reborn reality, better known as the Industrial Revolution. Now, this is technically a four-part storyline, but not really. It's kind of weird because all the six issues of all the different books were technically used as a way to tell this huge crossover between all the different titles. Now, just in case we have anybody joining us when it comes to our coverage over Heroes Reborn, let me explain what Heroes Reborn was all about. You see, in the late 1990s for Marvel Comics, they had some books that were no longer selling. So, for example, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, also, well, technically, when it comes to Captain America, he was selling, but he was also part of that deal as well when it came to Marvel canceling all their books that were supposedly not selling and giving those characters a fresh start in a brand new reality, better known as Heroes Reborn. And you had Marvel go out of their way to bring back old creators to see if that would get fans back into their books once again. So like Jim Lee, for example. Now, when it came to the Industrial Revolution, this first crossover, it did take place in all the six issues of all the different books that were part of Heroes Reborn. So Avengers, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and of course Captain America as well. But here's the thing. Most of the actual crossover takes place in Avengers and Iron Man. When it comes to Fantastic Four and, well, good old Steve Rogers, yes, their books are still part of the crossover, but technically not? It's really weird. Let me explain as we dive into Fantastic Four issue number 6. Because Fantastic Four issue number 6 is actually the conclusion to our last video for this series, but also the prologue for the actual crossover. But in the last few pages is the actual crossover. You'll see what I mean here, because as we get into the opening page of the storyline, we pick up with Alicia Masters. Now, for Alicia Masters, by this point in timeline for Heroes Reborn, she just met Ben Grimm, like literally just met him, and has been trying to have a date with the guy. The problem is right now he's late. And the reason why, because, well, currently the Fantastic Four are in Latveria dealing with Doctor Doom, but also the Super Skrull. And this kind of required us to kind of give you guys a quick rundown about what exactly happened in the earlier issues leading up to this particular moment. Let me explain. So in the earlier issues, as we all know, for Fantastic Four, they got their powers by being hit with cosmic radiation. But here's the reason why they were hit with cosmic radiation. You see, when it came to our heroes, really Reed Richards, he was working on a project where the spacecraft was going to be used to study an anomaly out in space. The problem was that out of nowhere, Wyatt Wingfoot, who worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., just took over the entire project. And the reason why, because apparently S.H.I.E.L.D. and the president agreed to go ahead and destroy the anomaly. Now, technically, when it came to Wyatt Wingfoot, he was working for S.H.I.E.L.D., but that was not the real Wyatt Wingfoot. But at that time, we had no idea. All we knew was that he was working for S.H.I.E.L.D., but also working for Doctor Doom. Now, for our heroes, they used a prototype spacecraft to follow Wyatt's men into space to stop them, but of course they failed, but also got hit with cosmic radiation. Now, that space anomaly, it had crashed on Earth in Wakanda. That was the Silver Surfer. Now, you did have Doctor Doom go out of his way to catch a Silver Surfer so that he'll then be able to absorb that energy and give it to himself. But when it came to Wyatt Wingfoot, the fake Wyatt Wingfoot, we had learned that he was a Super Skrull working behind the scenes who also wanted to absorb the energy of the Silver Surfer for himself. And so we're technically all the way caught up now. And the thing is, none of this does anything for the actual crossover that we have to talk about. So don't worry, I put a timestamp down below to tell you where to jump to if you're trying to get into the actual crossover. But this kind of leads into us getting the reason why the Super Skrull is here for. Like, what is his actual purpose on Earth? Well, the reason why, because when it came to the Super Skrull, as we all know, he's part of the Skrull race. But at this point, their home world has been attacked by, well, Galactus. And so it's the Super Skrull kind of warning our heroes all like, hey, you found the Silver Surfer, but you have no idea why he's technically here for, because he's right now trying to find a world for his master Galactus to, well, absorb. And so it's our heroes kind of learning about the Skrull race, but also learning about Silver Surfer and Galactus as well, all in one. Now, with the Super Skrull having the powers of Cosmic inside of him, he now has the ability to fight against all our heroes, but also Doctor Doom as well. As a matter of fact, we get that classic throwback to how the Super Skrull is able to use the different powers of the different members of the Fantastic Four as well. But this kind of leads into a very quick ending, and the reason why, because we got to get into that crossover, right? So we do pick up with Doctor Doom. The man got a plan. So you have Doctor Doom inform Susan to use her powers to redirect the energy that Super Skrull is shooting out at the moment over to the Silver Surfer. With him doing that, bam, just like that, Surfer is back on his feet again, getting ready to battle against the Super Skrull. But here's the problem though. You see, as their battle goes on, the reactor underneath Victor's castle is about to, well, explode, it seems like. And so for our heroes, they have to escape. Now for Doctor Doom, he does not want to leave. So he goes down to where the reactor is at to kind of save it, but also gather other things as well. For the rest of our heroes, like the Fantastic Four and Black Panther, they get the heck out of there while you have Silver Surfer and the Super Skrull continue to battle against one another. And so this kind of leads into our heroes heading back home, but technically because for Ben Grimm, he got word about what happened on Avengers Island. So this right here kind of begins the process of the Fantastic Four being brought into the crossover, but also what we saw in our last video for the Avengers. Now for our heroes, they're also kind of wondering, like, did Doctor Doom survive? Now, as they fly away, we do see our heroes being watched by the Silver Surfer. So of course it's kind of like, hey guys, don't worry, he's not gone just yet. He might play a role down the road in a later storyline for our heroes. Now, a little bit after that moment right there, we do pick up with Doctor Doom, but like in a different lab away from the castle that got blown up just recently. And so for Doctor Doom, while being in his lab, he's then confronted by one of his Doom bots who's like, hey, listen, boss, I got some word to tell you, like what's happening right now back in the States. The whole idea of the Incredible Hulk. Now, in our last video for the Avengers, when it came to the Hulk, he attacked Avengers Island and like wrecked the entire team in a few pages. Literally just beat them all down. But when it came to Doctor Doom, he didn't hear about the Hulk until, well, this exact moment. And so once you have Doctor Doom being able to collect different information about the Hulk, he realized how powerful the Hulk truly is. Now for Doctor Doom, it's him also telling us the Hulk could be more powerful than the Silver Surfer because it's gamma radiation. It's maybe stronger than cosmic radiation. Who knows technically, but you do have Doctor Doom go out of his way to use his computers to kind of figure out the true secret behind the Hulk. Like, who is the Hulk? And so after like a brief moment, he realized or discovers the Hulk is Bruce Banner. And so we kind of get this flashback, right? In this flashback, we kind of get reminded that in the college days for Doctor Doom, he was part of this small circle of other characters we've seen so far in the Heroes Reborn reality. So like Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Hank Pym, Bruce Banner, and Rebel. Now, by this point in timeline, Rebel died in an earlier issue of Iron Man. But anyways, for Doctor Doom, he remembers having this conversation with Bruce Banner. And when it came to Bruce Banner, he even talked back then about creating the gamma bomb. But he only created it as a way to see it not be used at all. Now, Doctor Doom calls Bruce Banner an idiot. Like, so let me get this straight. You're going to create a bomb to never be used at all, to just sit there. And for me, I kind of agree with Doctor Doom because as we saw for Bruce Banner, he did create the gamma bomb, but for the military. And of course, he even then teamed up with Hydra, hoping that it would get dismantled. But of course, it wasn't. It was technically used, but to create the Hulk, as we all saw in the earlier videos of Iron Man. Now, for Dr. Doom, he kind of realized that with the Hulk being out there, all his old college friends, Reed, Hank Pym, and also Tony Stark and Bruce Banner will be involved in some type of situation where they all could just be killed off, allowing Dr. Doom the chance to just roll over the world. And so it's him saying like, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit here and wait to see the actual outcome of this event. And so we now jump into the second chapter. That last few pages where Dr. Doom's in his lab finding out about Bruce being the Hulk, that was really the prologue for the Industrial Revolution. So now we can fully dive into the actual, crossover, where we do pick up with Avengers issue number 6. Now, when it comes to Avengers issue number 6, it picks up with Bruce Banner breaking into the Baxter building. Now, here's the thing, because Homeboy does not get that far because he is instantly confronted by most of the members of the Fantastic Four, the Human Torch, Susan Storm, and also Ben Grimm. But while you do have Bruce be confronted by these three characters, he tells them like, hey, listen, I just need to talk to Reed Richards. And so you do have Reed appear. Now, Reed does appear. This kind of picks up where our last Avengers video left off at, because when he came to the Hulk, he went over to Avengers Island, just wrecked the entire place. The problem is that there is a gamma core there. If that core blows up, boom, there goes the island, but also a huge chunk of the nation as well. And so right now for Bruce, he's there asking for the help of Reed Richards. Again, another callback to the idea that Reed and Bruce and a few other characters were good friends back in college. And so now we do switch over to Avengers Island. Now remember, for most of the people in the world right now, they don't know that Bruce Banner is the Hulk. But this crossover kind of gives our heroes the ability to figure out like, okay, Bruce is the Hulk. Cool. But for right now, no one knows that. But when we do jump over to Avengers Island, we see how badly damaged it was by the Hulk fighting against the Avengers. Now, you do have S.H.I.E.L.D. being able to find Hellcat, Steve Rogers. The thing is, Swordsman and Hawkeye are critically injured at the moment. So for right now, they're not going to be in this actual crossover. Now, when it comes to Nick Fury, he tries to send in a team to deal with the Gamma Core. The problem is that because it's already badly damaged, some of that radiation of the core is already leaking out. So it comes to some people trying to get close to it. Unfortunately, they can't. They die in a matter of seconds when they try to get close to the actual core. And so for Nick Fury, he kind of realized he needs some better tech or something to kind of help out with this situation. Now, again, for Nick Fury, he has no idea that Bruce is the Hulk, but also Bruce right now is getting the help of Reed Richards. Now, that leads into Nick Fury being confronted by Loki. Now, when it comes to Loki, he's the reason why the Hulk went over to Avengers Island in our last video and just basically wrecked the entire place. Because for Loki, he's working with the Enchantress. And when it came to Loki, he wanted the Avengers off the board. So did she as well, but for a completely different reason. For Enchantress, she wanted them out of the way to allow her the ability to grant a Scarlet Witch. And the reason why, because she believes the Scarlet Witch is, well, her daughter. Either way, you do have Loki right now confronting Nick Fury. And for Nick, he's kind of wondering, who in the world is this guy here at the moment? Now, we do briefly jump over to the Fantastic Four, and you do have our heroes arrive to Avengers Island. The thing is, when you do arrive, you didn't have our heroes realize how badly the place is damaged thanks to the Hulk, but they don't have any idea what did actually damage this island just yet. But they do find Thor just laying there, still unconscious at the moment. But now it's time for us to get Iron Man into the book as well, because around his time in Marvel Comics, when it came to Iron Man, he was not technically working with the other characters just yet, the Fantastic Four or the Avengers. And so when he does arrive for Nick Fury, This is the one guy he knows nothing about. He's kind of like, who in the world is this Iron Man guy? Now, for Iron Man, he does want to help out with this situation. And Nick says no at first. But you have Iron Man say, like, listen, my boss, Tony Stark, because I'm his bodyguard, he built most of your equipment. So I have all the different codes to technically shut you down. So how about this? Allow me to help you, or I'm gonna go ahead and shut everything down that you're currently using that was created by Tony Stark, including Avengers Island. And so you have Nick say, fine, you get 1 hour, and Tony leaves to go see the other heroes. But let's not forget that it was Iron Man's comics that gave us the Hulk in this reality. Matter of fact, for Tony Stark and for most people, they still believe that Bruce is dead and not realizing that Bruce is the Hulk. So when you have Ben Grimm flying past Iron Man because Thor punched him that hard, and you have the Human Torch go grab the thing, you have the two guys inform Tony like, Bruce is alive. And for Tony, he can't believe what he's currently hearing. And so this kind of leads into the Fantastic Four meeting up with the Avengers. Now, technically, at this point in time, the two teams had already met because when it came to Namor, when he had attacked Manhattan, the Avengers helped out with that situation alongside with the Fantastic Four. But with that being said, with the two teams coming together, you have Reed tell the Avengers like, hey, listen, I brought somebody else who could possibly help us out, and that would be Bruce Banner. The problem is that you have Hellcat being able to realize that Bruce is the Hulk, because of course, both characters had the same scent. Now, of course, that makes Bruce kind of freak out a tad bit. And so while you have everyone discussing like what to do with the Gamma Core, you didn't have Bruce Banner turn into the Hulk to wrap up the second chapter of this storyline. And so now we do switch over to Iron Man issue number 6. Now, with this issue right here, we do pick up with the Hulk just throwing a tantrum. Now, you do have Susan being able to kind of keep the Hulk at bay, which honestly, I'm kind of impressed. And the reason why, because this is still early on in Heroes Reborn. So for Susan, even though she has technically learned how to use her powers in better ways, I'm just surprised to see how strong she is now to be able to kind of keep up a force field to keep the Hulk at bay. Now, they're also kind of hoping that if the Hulk does calm down, he'll turn back into Bruce Banner. But you have Reed say that's not going to happen, because with the whole idea of the gamma radiation leaking out because of the Gamma Core, Bruce will stay as a Hulk until they're able to handle that situation right there. And while you have all this stuff just popping off, you have Loki just being able to keep teasing Nick Fury. I kind of like this a lot because it's just him truly being the god of mischief. And the thing is, Nick Fury is the only person who sees Loki at the moment. So for everybody else are kind of like, hey, who is Nick talking to? And why in the world is he freaking out at the moment? But in reality, it is Nick Fury just talking to Loki. But as we do switch back over to our heroes, you do have Reed and Tony being able to figure out what they have to do to save the day. Now, they say they have to redirect the Gamma Core energy into the Earth core. Now, here's the thing, because while you do have the two characters talking to one another, Reed kind of realized that Tony is Iron Man, but just pretending that, yeah, you're Tony Stark's bodyguard. That's right, cool, But in reality, Reed knows for sure. Now, when it comes to Tony and Reed, like I said, they had realized they had to redirect the energy of the Gamma Core into the Earth core to save the nation being hit with gamma radiation. Now, I feel like that's a bad idea. But you do have Thor and also Ben Grimm go inside this room to kind of help redirect that energy into the right area. But it kind of leads into Ben Grimm and also really Thor working together to kind of clear a path over to the Gamma Core. The problem is that when they do get close to the Gamma Core, it begins to hit them pretty hard, which means that they're no longer really able to change the direction of the energy of the Gamma Core into the Earth core. Now, while you have Iron Man trying to talk to Reed through one of his many computers, Hulk is just talking so loud that for Tony, he can't hear Reed. And so you have Tony go off on the Hulk, like, Hulk, listen, right now, you're not helping. And technically right now, the only thing you're doing is ticking me off. if you want to help out, get down there and redirect that energy to the Earth core. Because if you don't, 12 million people are going to die very soon. Now, this is Tony kind of talking to the Hulk like Hulk is not really intelligent at all, but it does seem like the Hulk does have some kind of intelligence because his connection to Bruce Banner. But right after you have Tony just go off on the Hulk, Hulk's like, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and help out. You're right. I should totally help out. It's a quick switch where the Hulk is no longer this man-child, but now actually acting like, well, a hero. And this kind of leads into a very rush ending for this chapter, but technically there's still one more chapter left. It's an epilogue, and it gets weird all over again how they kind of did this whole crossover. And you see what I mean here in a moment, but you do have the Hulk being able to help out with the Gamma Core, and the day seems to be saved. And you have the Human Torch being able to absorb all the heat energy that was coming out of the Gamma Core and release it in the air. So just like that, the day is saved. Now for Steve Rogers, he kind of feels like this is the official end to the Avengers. But you have Iron Man say, no, not just yet. And this leads into the epilogue, which is in Captain America issue number 6. Here comes the problem with that issue. Because as we dive into Captain America issue number 6, the first storyline has nothing to do with the Industrial Revolution. Instead, it's more of us seeing Cable teaming up with Steve Rogers. And that's really it. Like literally, you have Cable appear in this reality. And this is Cable from the main Marvel universe who was transported over to this reality. And so it's him right now just helping out Steve Rogers to fight against different members of the AIM organization, but also Steve fighting against some characters he fought in the past in this timeline, but also in the old main Marvel Universe timeline as well. But let's not forget, around this time in the main Marvel Universe, there was no Avengers. There was no Fantastic Four because they had quote unquote died in the Onslaught crossover. So for Cable to be here in this reality, to fight alongside with Steve Rogers, he's kind of like, man, this is great because the guy reminds me of my Steve Rogers from Mine Reality, who I fought alongside with in the Onslaught crossover. But either way, for Steve, he's just fighting against AIM, fighting against MODOK, and also fighting against Baron Zemo as well. But for Cable, as he continues to watch Steve Rogers, he also realized that Steve has another Bucky in this reality. And matter of fact, we met her in our last video for Steve Rogers in this reality. And that would be Rebecca Barnes. Now, let's not forget, guys, when it comes to the Heroes Reborn reality, when it first came out in Marvel Comics, we were kind of left to believe to be a separate reality from the main Marvel Universe. But then over time, with all the different clues popping up left and right, interviews, all that different stuff, we kind of learned that this is actually a pocket dimension in the main Marvel Universe. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now, because for Rebecca Barnes, you could technically say that she is the sister to, well, the Winter Soldier over in the main Marvel Universe, because technically she is a grandchild to, well, Winter Soldier's grandparents as well. But either way, it's just Cable watching Steve and her working together as a team. Now, by this point in the timeline, she's officially Bucky. The last time we saw her, she was not Bucky at all just yet. But really, for the storyline that takes place at first in this issue, it does wrap up very quickly where you do have Steve Rogers being able to take down AIM, MODOK, and also, well, Baron Zemo as well. But right after doing that, you didn't have Cable get pulled back into his reality. Now, he kind of gets this idea that the reality he was just at, the hero he just met, could be his hero from his reality just lost in a different one. And so his main goal now for Cable supposedly is to find a way to bring back Steve Rogers and the rest of the heroes. But he does go back home. But this leads into literally the last 2 pages of the Industrial Revolution. And like I said, it's just random to me because You get Nick Fury just going back over to his room, right, to finally get some kind of rest. Except that is when he's confronted by Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and they're all there to say, like, hey, listen, Nick. So we are no longer going to have the Avengers working for S.H.I.E.L.D. The Avengers are now officially going in their own direction. And that's really it. And I'm kind of like, what is the actual point to have these 2 pages kept to this one particular issue? These 2 pages could have been used over in the Iron Man issue that you just technically finished the story at. And so, yeah, that's the end for the Industrial Revolution crossover for the Heroes Reborn, their first event in this, well, pocket dimension. But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see you all next time. Later.